everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle showcase. And I am delighted here to have Jamie Arthur of Property Webmasters. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
I talk about myself being a northerner, but you proper northerners look down on us. What do you consider? You're up in Hartlepool, aren't you?
Yeah, right up in the northeast. Where is it you're from originally?
You'll be on the wall. I'm just down in Midlands, Manchester.
Right.
Softy southerner, according to you lot. Anyway, good stuff. Look, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today, Jamie, because I think it's one of those really weird scenarios where to call you an industry's best kept secret would be ludicrous, because you do a huge amount here. But I don't think that you are as well known as you absolutely should be, considering the amount of work and the sort of fantastic websites you put out. So this is one of those really interesting ones where I get to be shameless and shout about it and pretend that I was the one that brought it to people's attention. But of course, the only reason you're able to do that is because you're doing so much great work already. We were talking about the title of today, and it was going to be called "Invest in Your Own Brand to Attract Home Buyers and Sellers." So we'll loop back to that in a while. But if it's okay for you, could you just give us the kind of the Avengers background story? Tell us about yourself. How did you get into the industry and the background, and then the business from there, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the welcome there, Simon. So I've been in the industry now for 17 years, and I've been working in website solutions for over 20 years now. So originally starting out as a website designer. I worked for a creative agency for a few years, and then that soon led to me working with a company called Property-Abroad.com, which I'm not sure whether you were familiar with. It's probably going back, 17 years ago. So I ended up starting working with Property Abroad as the web designer, and they had probably 250 websites at the time for different locations around the world.
Okay.
So yeah, I had my hands full there, and then it kind of led me to start thinking about actually doing this for other companies as well, which is where Property Webmasters was born. So Property Webmasters has been around now for over 15 years. But it's really only the last 6 years that the Property Webmasters has been my sole focus. I've always been involved in the property industry for the 17 years, but it's really the last 6 years where I've really thought, I'm going to grab this by the horns and take it as far as I possibly can. So yeah, here we are today. And in that time, we've been working with some of the world's leading estate agency brands. So yeah, it's exciting times.
We work with people like Sotheby's, from what I understand, and obviously massive global brands.
Yeah, Sotheby's, Christie's, Coldwell Bankers around the world, Century 21, Savills. We just launched a website for an arm of Knight Frank as well. So that's good. That's an international arm. So yeah,
these are the people that the brand is absolutely that, there is no consideration of second best for these businesses, is there?
Well, absolutely not. And that's what we pride ourselves on. It's not. Obviously we are. From people's perspective might be that we're just another web design company, but we're really not. We're a web design company that really wants to focus on generating powerful results for our clients, both domestically and internationally. So yeah, that's our lead focus, really.
Well, we'll come back to that point, because that's obviously a key differentiator and is a really important one, isn't it? So often we forget that having a nice shiny website is one element of it, but the results is absolutely the critical thing you're judged on with ROI, like many businesses.
Absolutely.
I am fairly. I smiled there when you were talking. So the complexities, as they are, such complex projects doing websites as well. And you thought you'd like to throw in the international dimension there just to make it even easier. How did you get to that? This is just what I want to always do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, it comes with its challenges, but it's really just happened quite organically. So if we go back 15 years ago, we still are. We're generating leads from all around the world. I think our latest client just signed up from Lebanon. So it's really quite. That's down to our marketing strategies. We're very well ranked, sort of organically, for anything to do with real estate website design. So and that's on an international scale. So we are really attracting clients from here, there, and everywhere, which is good. It's exciting, but it's always a new challenge.
Yeah, but I think one obvious point is, if there's one thing you can notice, it's if there's only one thing more kind of samey in walking past a high street and a load of estate agency offices that on the whole tend to look the same. The same can happen digitally, can't it? Quite easily if you're not careful there. Estate agents and websites. And what I like about it, and I'm sure must be a benefit, is because you've got exposure in so many different marketplaces, you're able to glean best practice from these different markets, aren't you, and keep things mixed up, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So each market has, obviously, they are selling real estate and they are attracting sellers as well. So each market is, in essence, the same, but there are always various different loopholes. And things that we have to different challenges that we have to overcome. Like you say, languages, currencies, different feed formats, different details that people like to display on websites. I know in Australia, they don't like to display prices on websites because it's more about the lead gen side of things. So different challenges, and that's what optimizes our marketing campaigns as well, which we'll come on to.
And you're right, the Aussies, for example, they launch the properties at different stages as well, don't they? Like, more reticence to kind of, hold it back and everything else. But you just mentioned there, one of the critical things, my background, obviously, in the CRM space.
Yeah.
So the complexity there of all the different feed formats must be staggering in terms of what you have to become used to. How does that affect you, obviously, over here in the UK? Do you have normal feed formats from the normal CRM players? How does it work over here?
Yeah. Well, it works in much the same way, obviously, internationally than it does here. It's just internationally we might come across more, different variations of feed types. So we have to work on the actual implementation of that feed. Whereas if we're working with a repeat feed or something like that, expert agent or anything like that, then we've already got that solution built and in place so that we can roll it out quite quickly. Anything new, obviously, would be represented in the cost of the actual implementation. So yeah, you'd be surprised at how similar they are, to be honest. The feed formats, and I know you'll have come across the likes of XML2U, and that's it's not as much a standard as it used to be, but it's certainly something that people have fallen back on for feed integrations. So
it must just have been whenever I was looking for it, and the web company would rub their chin and go, well, that's going to I was obviously talking to the wrong company there. They were saying how difficult it was. So we spoke about it. So we spoke about it there, Jamie. What are the differences? Obviously, there's lots of different web providers, albeit I think actually in terms of relevant web providers, independent like your good selves, that are able to satisfy and focus on the UK property industry. That's a shrinking list, isn't it? And many businesses have gone by the wayside. Many have diversified outside of property and lost their focus. Many have been acquired, and I think it's fair to say the focus has, again, and the quality has fallen off there. So from your point of view, what do you think does make you different to the providers?
The existing providers. So, I don't want to I'm not going to sit and badmouth. There are the various other providers that are excellent at what they do, and you'll have worked with a few yourself, Simon. So I don't want to come across like I'm badmouthing anybody in any way, shape, or form.
We can have a bitch fest later.
So it's not the case at all. But what we've done is we've focused our solutions purely on the fact of growing an estate agency company. It's not just a website just to act as a shop front. It's a website that actually performs well. It generates leads. It's the performance of the website itself based on various metrics such as SEO, accessibility, speed, mobile performance as well. We've considered all of these attributes to make sure that we're giving a client the very best possible service, not just to get a website, but also to build a relationship with the client and keep the client for 5 or 6 years and work with them on marketing strategies and really help them grow their business. So we consider ourselves a prop tech company, but a sort of a specialist growth prop tech company.
Got you. And one of the things that jumped out at me when I was doing the little bit of research that I always blag that I do for these things, but we were talking about it, and you were saying that in terms of that scoring element, a definitive score on how websites are doing, I think you made the point that most agency websites kind of score on one of the tests between a kind of around 35 and 60, but your latest website score at 95% and higher. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So we've just rolled out our new Agent Plus platform. that is the whole emphasis on that has been on performance, and well, it is the fastest website solution available on the market. Wow. Internally and sort of externally, so people can browse the website. You're going to have a bullet fast experience. It's going to be, well, it is already highly focused on lead generation. So you've got your member login accounts, you can Google Cloud login, you've got property alerts, you can share properties. There's all kinds of things, and then we've got a lot of SEO functionality in the dashboard as well to empower the agent to actually put content on the website, which isn't always the case. So you can create area guides, you can create landing pages, you can submit content to search results pages. So
because that's really hard, isn't it? Let's be honest, Jamie. That ability to, you can have the best looking website in the world, but if you're not able to kind of make it interactive, get that content ticking over, it's never going to become sticky in the way that you wish and need it to become.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you could have the ugliest website in the world, but if it's generating 500 inquiries a day, then you're going to be happy, aren't you? So,
were you talking about one of the portals there, or was that? No, it's fine.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's a really important thing for people that don't, get the importance of that, and I'm sure you all do. But it's because things like Google actually are becoming increasingly demanding, aren't they, in terms of their search engine optimization around things like speed and accessibility, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And well, Google love our websites. We've proven that for 15 years. On the bounce now, so got clients all over the world. We're working with the biggest estate agency in Cyprus, and anything to do with Cyprus real estate, they're coming up #1 in the rankings, and that's through obviously our SEO efforts, but also the actual performance of the website itself, and how, yeah, and like we say, it's not just about looking pretty. It's about how it performs. We had a conversation with somebody in the UK just the other day who came to us for a new website, but when we looked at the website, it looked fantastic. It was absolutely beautiful, and we were, so what's the problem? We're just getting absolutely no leads. So we dug a little deeper. SEO was very poor. The speed of the website, the mobile performance was quite embarrassing. So these are all the things that we need to consider in the build, and it's not just about getting that website up and running.
I mean, the amount of times we consult with clients on this a lot of the time, you'll see it, as you said, an absolutely fantastic website, and they're not even on the first page of Google, which of course is just, is just heartbreaking, isn't it? You put all that effort in, and obviously no one's able to find it.
Exactly that. So yeah, that's been our focus. Well, for 15 years, but primarily so in the last 6 years, to build out solutions that actually perform well. So that's what.
So give us a flavour of the kind of pain points that you help resolve. I mean, that's one that's one at the very top of the list, isn't it? That loads of people are, and I think that's another thing, is that loads of people are going out of the way to pay excess on SEO services, really to make up for the inefficiencies of the website itself. And obviously, if you get that stuff right, I mean, most people should be optimizing SEO and everything anyway. But if you get the website right, the native ease of use and accessibility should come with it, shouldn't it?
It should, yeah. And I mean, just going on the product itself. So the Agent Plus solution, obviously, we do the custom work as well. So it's custom and Agent Plus. That product itself is designed to perform well, as we've said, but it's also an affordable solution that the clients can just get complete peace of mind with. So it's a monthly payment solution, it's a license, and it's spread over 24 months. So that pain point of having to come up with, I don't know, 10 grand to get a website running, and then you've got to consider monthly support, and then you've got to consider hosting, and then you've got various other challenges in place, and it might not have all the features that we currently have in Agent Plus. So that's a pain point that we cover. But the pain point in the UK really for us is it's probably an unknown pain point for 99% of the estate agents, because they, without sort of trying to be derogatory in any way of the estate agents in the UK, I would say probably 99% of them don't realise how much opportunity there is through having a strong online platform. There's far too much emphasis on the property portals, and what we want to do in the UK is try to educate people as to what else is available. Not to, like I say, not to come away from the portals, but also look at other opportunities. So, I mean, you'll browse hundreds of thousands of websites yourself, Simon, for an estate agency in the UK, and I don't know what percentage of them have you had a good experience on.
Let me try and do this without ruining myself. It takes a lot to stand out. I think is the fair point there, isn't it? There are some exceptional ones. There are some ones that don't deserve to be loaded, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, and exactly that. And we've got clients of all sizes. So we've got a client quite local to us who doesn't invest in any marketing other than portals, but they're actually generating 30 leads a day just through their website, just by having a well-structured website. So
give us a flavour. What size agency is that?
It's a single branch agency with 2 staff.
Wow.
And they've got, I don't know, maybe 150, 160 properties on their website. So they're quite a small outfit, but they're generating a huge amount of demand, and that's like from no spend whatsoever. They pay the license fee, but because they've got a well-structured solution, it actually generates a lot of leads for them, probably, and the return on investment from their website is I would say far outweighs their investment in the property portals.
Really good. I mean, that's fantastic. And so I mean, there's a couple of things there. Is one of the things that, I mean, we changed the model. I think it was fair to say, maybe Desres as well at the time, where, you know, traditionally, like websites, there had always been the big upfront payment with CRM software.
Yeah.
And then it, you know, as I said before, there was even the fancy term software as a service. Moving it to the rental changed the whole concept of things. And it's always struck me that kind of weirdness around the web model where, you pay 10 grand, often, you know, it can even be more than that.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes out of date straight afterwards. So you're already gearing yourself up, aren't you, for the next big bill. And the problem with that is, if the market isn't right at that time and the business can't afford it, you can get quite out of date very, very quickly, can't you? Whereas your model, of course, is a much more effective way of doing it, being able to manage that. You're going to be able to have a much more measured approach, aren't you, to this investment in technology you have to have on your most corporate brochure, essentially your website. Yeah,
absolutely that. I mean, we're actually referring to it as a website as a service. So okay. So that's what we're trying to push with our platform. But the benefits of the platform are that obviously it's a staggered payment plan. You're completely covered in support purposes. You've got the hosting. You know who to go to if there's ever a problem. But also we are rolling out new features every 4 weeks at the moment. So you're actually getting more for your money the more time you spend on the system as well.
So I'm clear on that. So if you buy into this the website as a service, you get those updates included, or do you still have to pay extra for those?
No, I would say it's probably 80%, 80-20. So 80% of the features get rolled out to the system automatically as part of your fee. But there are obviously additional bolt-on services that you can look to build on. So we're working on a new development.
Yeah, which is, Jamie's, entirely reasonable, isn't it? If there's something major out there. But I think the key thing is they're almost 100% of those would not be included in the traditional website model, would they? You would.
Exactly. And you might be, for one of those features, you might be looking at 500 quid a pop just to introduce one feature into your custom website. Not only that, after 2 years, we do offer the free website design upgrade as well, so it changes it every 2 years.
You get a free, so you don't have to pay, because I'm aware of some of the people who have tried to go down this, but they actually still keep a cost in there for the website design. You actually include that in that website as a service design. They could just move over to a new template. So, and obviously we're building out new templates all the time, so we never want to have too many template choices, but they would be able to move over to a different template choice, which would be more in line with whatever trends that there are going to be in 24 months' time. So you're able to do this, and how are you able to do this then? So you are able to do that, as you said, by having this really flexible, ostensibly system in place without having to do all the weird bespoke stuff. Is that right? Would that be right to say?
That's right. Yeah, it's been built as a fully sort of multi-tenanted solution. So it's got the core framework, and then we've got all of the tenants spinning off that. It is. we can customize certain elements, so we can introduce custom components, but which would come at an additional cost, but would also and we can do sort of custom CSS and things like that through the master framework for individual sites. So they can, although it is a template solution, it can look quite different to each other. Yeah. So it's perfectly scalable, and it's just a really strong solution, to be honest.
And give us an idea of what does you don't have to drill down into the detail, but whereabouts on the spectrum of cost do you fit in terms of do you consider yourselves sort of mid-tier? Are you sort of volume? Are you top end? Where would an estate agent expect you to fit in their cost base?
Well, it's straight. It depends who you speak to. Some people say that you're ludicrously expensive, and some people say that you're too cheap. So it's I would say we're in the middle. So the cost is £250 per month, and it's a 24-month contract. No setup fees. It's packed with features. It's the best performing website solution that you'll come across anywhere. And for that, over 2 years, you're investing £6,000, which includes your hosting and any support. So you're covered for any bug fixes or anything like that. So really, it's a bit of a no-brainer.
What would you typically be looking at then? Kind of £6,000 to get you going.
Yeah. Well, that's spread out over 24 months as well. So it's not even a chunky investment up front.
Well, that's very competitive, isn't it? I would have to say there, and it's especially going on what the proof is in the pudding in terms of your, as you've already said, the website scoring and the ability to generate leads and everything else. So that
you want one, Simon? You want one?
Yes, if I was opening up and finally I was going to actually put my money where my mouth was and actually run an agency, that would be the industry bursts out laughing at that point. But yeah, I certainly would be talking to you guys if I was. That's absolutely there. So talk to us about, you mentioned a few of us, the global names, and again, who do you work with? And I think not just who do you work with, but do you also have partnerships? Clearly, I think you mentioned you've got partnerships with the likes of the CRMs. Anybody else out there that you work with over here in the UK?
Estate agency wise?
Yes, I mean anyone in the property industry really, who would be relevant that you
we're working with Sotheby's in the UK at the moment. We're just launching their new website right now. We worked with, because we haven't got as much exposure in the UK as things stand. That's something that we want to change moving forward. We don't have
that was what was exciting talking to you. I just thought this is looking at your websites, looking at, as you said, looking at those price points. This is shouting out to be rolled out at volume over here.
It is absolutely, but we work with some pretty prestigious brands already in the UK. So I don't know whether you might know Perry Power Bespoke. Perry. We work with Edward Mellor. Mellor Braggins, so Shelton and Lynes. You've got Preston Baker as well.
Colin Mellor's just down the road here. Got to be careful. A big City fan, so he'll take me to the cleaners.
Oh, Colin, yeah, he's a good guy, Colin. So
he is.
You know him well.
Yeah, he's great. He's absolutely great. He does invite me to the football, but as I said, I don't want to ruin our professional relationship because it'd all go pear-shaped. So look, there's some really big names in there, and as I said, on top of those ones you were talking about internationally, there's some of the I suppose, and again, some of the most demanding names you'd expect over here. So that's testament as well. I always look at the kind of businesses you work with. That helps tell you a lot about where you're up to as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that before. What is it? How is it you want Property Webmasters to help change within the industry? You mentioned that sort of not to say cutting the umbilical cord with the portals, but maybe just reducing the reliance. How are you going to do that working with the agents? Is it literally just making them realise the own importance of their own website?
Yeah, and that's going to come through. I mean, we've got plans of running sort of seminars and things like that, and podcasts of how to educate and trying to educate estate agents in the UK as to what else can be done. I mean, when we do speak with people, it seems to be quite often we get the response that I advertise on Rightmove, I don't need to consider any other marketing channels, and it's kind of like, well. But then in the same breath, they'll complain about the price of Rightmove, and it's kind of, you put all your eggs into one basket, and now you're complaining about what the cost is for that. So,
and let's be really clear, Jamie, as well. the price you're talking about there spread over, even though it is over the 2 years, is the price that many agents will be paying in just a few months for some of the portals. So I mean, the focus and the weight of getting what's important. You've got to start with your own website first and foremost, or how else do you ever expect to stand out from those other people anyway?
Exactly, and I am bound to say this, but everything is underpinned by your own website. So your exposure through portals, your exposure through your social media channels, anything that you're doing sort of regionally in your own area that you're doing. Every single person is going to have some engagement with your website, so that whether they're a buyer or a seller, and you've got to be. Every estate agent's got to be thinking, why would I, if I was looking to sell my property, what would I use my own estate agency? And I think if they're honest, I would say 90% of them would say probably wouldn't, because I don't know, I might have a website that when I go to the property pages, it just links me off to Rightmove, which is a big bug of mine. But and if you're
bouncing them away from yourself, isn't it?
Exactly, you put all that effort into actually getting them to your own brand website, and that you just direct them to somewhere else, and then people aren't stupid. They shop around, they look at social media, they see your name out there. It's about building that personal brand as well as sort of obviously the company brand. So people have that familiarity with you before they even engage with your services. So yeah, there are just so many opportunities out there outside of the portals, but portals should always still be a string to the marketing campaigns that you're doing.
And dare I say it, there's as you mentioned, there's a few other great competitors in this field, albeit it seems to be a shrinking field there. I think they all have very different views on a lot of stuff, but the one thing that they all seem united, it'd be interesting to get your view on, is the need of or the preference to not go for the local guy. When that seems to be one of the surest recipes for disaster, is because a local website company that has no knowledge of the industry at all can show them a very different look and feel, that they go down that route, probably being told, things, we'll be able to do all the rest of the stuff easy, but actually the sheer amount of experience that's needed just to do the essential plumbing, to do the searches, the matching, the area guides, and everything else is you'll never get to do all the clever stuff if you fail to do the basic stuff, will you? Right?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they might get the basics right, but it's how obviously, because we're positioned in the industry day in, day out. We have suggestions on a daily basis, or we've tried this works. So it's a very proactive approach that we have with our clients. So they might come to us with a problem, and then we have a solution for it, but we might just go to them with a completely fresh idea that we've tried out in, I don't know, the Costa del Sol, that we know we can implement in the UK, and it will work. So it's that experience that you're getting as part of the bundle with a company like ours. So it's not just the actual product itself. It's got to grow, and it's got to develop and innovate as well.
That's cool. We're doing an ebook at the moment, Jamie, just on sort of on websites. How tips to choose. What would you say? Are there any tips that come to your mind straight away that agents that are thinking about looking for a new website? What's the questions they should be asking? You got any clues there for them?
The questions that they should be asking. I think it comes down to what kind of level of support you're going to get, and what kind of experience that whoever you're speaking to has in this particular industry. I mean, some of our competitors. So it might not be that they might be speaking to one of our competitors. They might be speaking to their local web design agency. So it's going to that company and sort of getting an understanding of exactly what their track record is, looking at their case studies. But if I think one of the main things that we're seeing the best success from our websites is the fact that it's got an all-inclusive members area as well, which is really interactive and engaging for visitors of the site. So you can create an account.
That's the ability, as I would understand it, to log. You would give your clients a username and password. They can log into the back part of that and get access to some of those resources
Yeah.
Off the back of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's access to resources. It's the ability to shortlist properties and things like that. It's nothing. I mean, we're not breaking sort of boundaries here with the things that I'm suggesting, but you've got to be thinking about these things. So and what automation is in the background as well. So if a client has created a members account, shortlisted a property, then how do they get informed if that property goes off the market? Do they get suggestions as to what other properties they might be interested in?
Yeah.
So a lot of this automation, which yes, you could argue should be coming from the CRM, but it's also a capability within our website solution as well. So these are the kinds of things that you've got to be considering. It's not just about having a pretty website. It's about having something that's going to actually help you grow your business and generate as much traction as I can.
But the CRMs, let's be honest, tend to do that part of it a bit ugly. They're quite functional on that, just in my experience. Whereas the one thing about the websites is they do have the polish, don't they? And actually, if you are ultimately sending out property brochures, details, listings, that probably needs to come from you guys, and that's where the split probably breaks, isn't it?
And not all CRM. I mean, you'll know yourself probably more than me, Simon. Is quite a lot of estate agents don't even have CRMs. They don't even know what one is. There was a record from one of the portals. I won't say who because I can't say it. That their uploads, they were able to say that 2,500 offices still don't have a CRM system in place. Yeah.
And I was my mind. I thought it might be a few hundred or whatever else. And it's like over 10% of the marketplace is still working on that basis. It's incredible, really.
Yeah. It is crazy, and the amount of time lost there between sort of not having a CRM that integrates with your website and integrates with the portals. So you could be finding yourself uploading a property 4 or 5 times to get it on your website, on the CRM, on the portals.
That's not Luddite. That's not Luddite. There's another word for that, isn't there? But I think the other thing you just said there actually is you sort of self-deprecated a little bit because you said we're not doing anything truly groundbreaking. But I think there's a world of difference between, just as you said, being able to have a login section and to really do that what I would term comprehensively and effectively as a genuine service. And I think when I look around it, you asked me earlier, the majority of agents still don't have that functionality, do they?
No. That's very.
And that's where the arms race in one key area is going to develop, isn't it? Because if you get them there and you get them used to being sticky and using you for that side of things, then half the battle's been won, hasn't it?
It is, yeah. And that relationship's starting to develop. So, and you've got to think about every buyer is more often than not also a seller as well. So it's twofold, and then it just kind of snowballs from there, and then they introduce you to their friends. And I mean, you just got to. Agents have got to look at their whole customer journey, really. I mean, I've been looking for a property recently, and I've had some really bad experiences working. I've submitted inquiries through portals, and I haven't even had responses quite often. It's crazy that customer journey just hasn't been thought of. And sometimes there's such thing as too much automation. I know we're always trying to look at saving money and manpower and things like that, but really, a phone call, it might sound a bit archaic, but a phone call matters much more to quite a lot of the population than a text message does. So
a lot of agents will be really relieved hearing you say this, because there is a bit of a tendency from prop tech people to come in and say technology will do it all. I mean, you've mentioned a couple of examples where it's perfectly reasonable, to have the automation so that you can scale your business effectively doing some of this, but knowing where to then place in that journey, as you were talking about, the human touch points is the really critical factor, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That blend of both tech and personal service is what the best companies do well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the other. I mean, you're not going to sell a property with zero human interaction. There is going to be human interaction somewhere, no matter how much automation there is. I mean, that is changing, but we're just not there yet. So you've got to make sure you pick up the phone as well. And
you've got to get it right, haven't you? Because the problem, the only thing worse than no automation is automation when it's gone wrong. When you've tried to be too clever and implemented it poorly there, then you can end up going down some real, rabbit holes, can't you? Of and some hilarious I remember one of the email, direct mailing companies, and they got the automation wrong when they were sending out Happy Valentine's Day in June. Well, that's just idiocy, isn't it? I mean, that's
they got a bit of exposure from it, but not the right kind of exposure.
What are you seeing out there then, Jamie, in the kind of the wider world? I mean, we've spoken about, I'm not talking about globally, but I'm talking about cross industries or other ones there. What is there anything else that you think is likely to land in the property sector that we've kind of essentially just borrowed from other areas?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think, the world is, as we know, becoming much more of a global marketplace. So, I mean, if you're an estate agent in, I don't know, Manchester, something like that, you've got to be looking outside of the box. You might have people coming from all like investors from anywhere, really. So you've got to be looking at some kind of domestic marketing strategy, but also there might be an argument to have an international marketing strategy as well. We're also seeing things like obviously your fractional ownership for our overseas properties. That's becoming quite big. It's quite big in the US at the moment. So fractional ownership is starting to become something that's quite common across Europe now as well. So that's the jury's out from me on that one, but it just depends what kind of offerings people have.
Yeah, but at least you're kind of exposed to it. You understand where things are going, so it's not like I'm going to get off here and do a Google and find out what that is.
Yeah, well, it's basically shared ownership on
I thought my bluffer's guide to property got me through that bit.
But I think UK specifically, I think we're already seeing this. I think the whole property industry is going to become much more of a sort of broker-only kind of self-employed model moving forward. We're already seeing that,
isn't there? Definitely, that's a trend we're seeing fast and hard at the moment.
It is, and that's going to be even more. Obviously, over the next 5 years, it's going to be crazy how many estate agencies there are registered at companies' houses as self-employed companies. So
can I take it from that, because you're used to that in other markets, you're going to be ahead of the curve on that?
Yeah, well, with obviously the US side of things, it is sort of MLS based. It's anybody can sell any property, and I think that's what's going to come eventually in the UK. I don't know how soon that will happen, but it certainly will happen across Europe. It's already a big thing, but this also lends to. I mean, if I'm an estate agency now in the UK, I'm worried about this, and I'm going to be putting a lot of attention on my own brand marketing so that when that does happen, I'm one of the survivors.
Yeah.
So if in 10 years' time you haven't invested anything in your own brand, all of your estate agents have left your business and set up themselves, they can really compete with you from day one.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be very difficult for them to do. So that's why we're always trying to stress the importance of investing in your own brand.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And we can help you do that.
So and your own plans there, what have you got for the next year and beyond? What have you guys got that you can tell us without obviously having to kill me?
Well, yeah, I mean, we want more presence in the UK basically, and we've got quite a lot of focus on that. We've never, like, as we started the conversation now, we've never really shouted about ourselves in the UK, but that's changing. We attended the Negotiator Awards last year. We attended the RAN events as well. So people will be seeing a lot more of us in the UK.
Cool. And we'll be holding on to your coattails wherever you go. So if ever there's a good idea or something like that, don't worry, Kerfuffle will be there. And I'll be honest on that. Hopefully we can. I mean, hopefully people have found this useful, and of course they should reach out in the normal way. You can go to the Property Webmasters page on Kerfuffle, see further information about them, see reviews, see who they're integrated with, all that sort of wonderful stuff that we're trying to create a real resource for here. But you've also been fantastic in terms of getting the ball rolling, haven't you, there, Jamie? So in terms of exclusively for Kerfuffle members, I think you've said you're going to, am I right in saying it was 10% you were going to give off the monthly, was it?
Yeah, 10% off the monthly fees for the whole 24-month period. But we're also offering for the first 3 months, we'll offer a free marketing consultation program as well, which includes a blog post every month as well, which
to really get the ball rolling then, isn't it? You know, to get them into that habit of what needs to happen, you'll essentially handhold them through those first few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And obviously we want our clients to succeed so that they're working with us for a long time and they're prosperous under our wing as well. So that's the idea.
Back on Kerfuffle and shouting from the hilltops, and that's the circle of life.
It is.
Well, I really appreciate that. Look, we love exclusive offers here, so that's absolutely fantastic. So obviously, anyone reach out, and where can they find you from as well, Jamie? They can find you at Property Webmasters. Is it .com?
Yeah, propertywebmasters.com. So yeah, or if you just do a quick Google for Property Webmasters, don't click on any of the ads. Click on the first organic result, and that'll be us.
I was going to say is if you hadn't come on the first page there, that would have been really disappointing and shot ourselves in the foot. But that's clearly not going to be the case. Well, look, I think it really sounds interesting. It would be fascinating to talk to some of your clients as well on a future one as well. Get the real feel from it. I think
absolutely, yeah.
That sounds really a really interesting business in what is obviously it's a massively important niche. I always say, you know, websites are, you know, one of the holy trinity of the original prop tech, aren't they? You've got your CRM, your email, direct mail provider, and the website, and ideally you've got to have the strongest and best proposition you can have in there, and it sounds like you guys are really fitting the bill on that. Yeah,
absolutely. And don't forget the people behind it as well, the people who are actually part of your estate agency. Invest in those guys as well, just to make sure that when you do get a lead, it's dealt with in the correct manner.
That's a really good point, isn't it? You can create all the leads in the world, and unfortunately, if your staff are treating those as tire kickers, guess what? They're going to be tire kickers, aren't they? So exactly. To have that lead management role is really important as well, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yeah. You can't underestimate that.
Brilliant. Really enjoyed the talk with you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll catch up with you soon.
And you, Simon, thanks very much for your time, and thanks again.
Cheers, Jamie.
Give us a shout if you need us. Cheers.